I'm Matt Reynolds, and this is my podcast.
Chris, thanks for doing this.
No, thank you for being here. Really nice to be part of this today.
Now, we're in a library, would you call it, attached to your office down the Docklands here in Melbourne.
Correct.
First podcast I've recorded in a library, so there you go. We're on the first today. Now, for someone who doesn't know you personally or hasn't seen your stuff online, what are you currently working on?
So I have two companies. One is called Yolk Agency, which is a management consulting and recruitment company where we work with clients just to be better, to help them thrive. So the consulting practice helps people to really enjoy their businesses and look at the operational benchmarks to achieve more. With that, didn't have a lot of joy for recruiters, and I felt they were really salesy. So I decided to create quite a disruptive recruitment service at a fixed fee rather than a percentage-based fee to ensure that businesses are able to find great people for a fee that makes sense. And the other project that we're working on is a company called happyhr.com, where it's a cloud-based performance management program which allows people to have contracts and policies and performance management all on the cloud, which integrates with softwares I'm sure your listeners know, like Xero, Tanda, Deputy, KeyPay, so on and so forth. And they're companies I'm really enjoying running at the moment.
Okay. And how do you run two together? Because many of us struggle to one interest or even hold down a job, at some points in our lives for various different reasons. So how do you do that?
It's been an evolution. I suppose as a kid I've been a little bit of an entrepreneur the whole way. I suppose making life harder rather than simple has been my mantra, to be honest. But they're both in a way a symbiotic relationship. I really like to think that they're brother sister companies. So Yolk Agencies, I suppose, catchphrase is centered thinking. I believe that people are the most important part of a business. I mean, culture eats strategy for breakfast, in my opinion. So the whole reason behind ensuring that a business can take a business forward is people. So by getting into the center of a HR framework and then working that towards business strategy, operational benchmarks and so forth was a great thing to be part of. So when we did that type of approach to business consulting, we realized we started doing a lot of HR consulting. So I thought, hang on, let's look at what Xero's doing in the cloud. Maybe there's a better platform. So I looked at other platforms and maybe to be a referral partner to theirs, and I really realized, hang on, there's nothing out there that actually drives the compliance and drives the position descriptions and org charts and so forth. So I thought, you know what, maybe I'll just do this in the cloud. So I created Happy HR. So they basically buddy off each other. There's some people in Happy HR need recruitment and some people in recruitment who need HR. So they buddy off each other, and our customers get the benefit of both companies. So running both becomes actually almost one big company. So it's really nice to run both.
So it's almost two brands within the one.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Under their one umbrella.
Yeah, correct.
So you said you started business, you were interested in business pretty early on.
Yep.
What was your first business?
So I left home quite early. So that was really a means to being able to make money. I was out of home by 14.
14? Wow. 14. That's pretty early.
It was pretty early. It was, just an interesting journey that I went on back then. And so I built a billy cart, a sort of modified one that my dad had built, my big brother. It was Scott's Mean Machine. We'd run down the hills on that.
Yeah.
But bought a vacuum cleaner at a garage sale and, got buckets and used to literally knock on doors until it was dark, until I made enough money to make my rent and so on and so forth. It's very, very hard.
Door-to-door sales.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Pretty much. Knock on the door. And then the funniest thing is, which I still laugh at today, it's a funny story, but I really focused on doing a good job, because at the end of the day, people back then in Furniture Gallery, they're not going to pay you $10 a car or $5 a car if you weren't doing a good job. And fundamentally, some people were busy with family, so someone to come and wash their car was a nice thing.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give them an incentive. They keep using me, please. So I started, went to the car. I think it was like an auto barn back then. I bought turtle wax. I said, I'm using turtle wax, And they're like, oh, that's great. But I had a keen interest in cooking, and we'll probably get to that later. But I started literally going to the apple orchard. I'd buy a box of apples, and I learned at home economics how to make a really good apple crumble. So I would literally, for every 5th car I washed, I would give you a free homemade apple crumble.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I would wash 5 cars, and they'd be going, "Where's the apple crumble?" And in the end, they'd say, "Can you just, because they're so yummy, can you please just bring us an apple crumble every single time?" So I'd literally bring my ingredients with me, go into the kitchen, make the apple crumble, wash the car, and go to the next one.
And that's what you had to do to make rent back in
Pretty
those
much,
days?
yeah. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
So 14,
Yep.
you have to ask, why did you decide to leave home? Was there a reason?
It was just a challenging environment.
Okay.
So I decided to, you know what, I said, Mum, my parents had been divorced. I said, "Look, Mum, I love you, but this is not working out. So I'm just going to go and live someplace else. We're going to remain friends by doing that." And that was their premise for it. So
Okay.
yeah, so it was a challenging thing to do. My twin brother did the same thing, and but we went out there and we didn't take. A lot of kids at that age could take one course, but me and my twin brother have both got insatiable willpower.
Yep.
Like, we have got ridiculous optimism. So it was like, you know what, we excuse my French, we fall in a pile of shit, we'll come up smelling like roses. But that's not, it's usually, back then, it was through sheer hard work and determination.
So did that drive, that sheer hard work and determination, that drove from that point, or was that later on that
I think
really
I've always
formed the
had it,
confidence
whether
from?
it's sports or anything.
Yeah.
Whether it's any sports that I've done, I've always wanted to be the best at, or whether it's business, but it's about being, sometimes I'm not a tall guy, but I was successful in different sports than other because I just trained harder than the next guy. I just trained harder.
Okay.
So my drive comes from just wanting to be best practice. I have a wire in my brain that says I want to be someone that drives continuous improvement. Yesterday was okay, but what can I do today to be better? And I'm just wired that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's foundational.
100%.
That's where everything comes from.
Yeah.
Washing cars.
Yep.
Making apple pies. Where next?
Washing the cars was good, but it was really hard. I started doing okay at sports and cricket and football and so forth. So I actually got a job at KFC.
Right.
Cooking and hosting and so on and so forth. It was fine.
Yeah.
So it was my first real job, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And I was at school and that was going great. I was actually quite a good student. I didn't get involved with the riffraff, although back then there was kids that were going down absolutely the wrong path. But I just I'm not that kid. I've got rent to pay. I can't be that kid.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're still putting yourself through school,
Yeah.
even though
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't leave school. I still went through school. I still studied hard. I still, in fact, at that stage, I was able to, for the first time in my life, actually, to buy nice clothes.
Right.
And to actually take care of myself and go get, and actually really dress quite nicely for my age. And I ended up having a cooking teacher at school. Her name was Mrs. Tran. She was lovely. And I ended up, she was just a lovely lady, but she recognised this young, passionate kid who just loved food, really loved food. So all the other kids are making these dodgy peaches in home economics class.
Yeah.
And I'm making soufflés and things like this. And she's like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
But I got to a point where, I would even go into home economics class sometimes during lunch breaks just to make food.
Yep.
And she goes, "Look, what I'm going to do with you is I'm going to enter you in a cooking competition.
Okay.
And you're going to do this cooking competition and we'll see how you go." Now, I went to that cooking competition. It was a box, magic box. You cook an entree, a main, and a dessert.
Yep.
End up winning that competition.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And one of the judges was, Stephanie Alexander and Bill Marchetti. And I was asked by Bill Marchetti, he's like, where are you working? I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm at school." He goes, "How the hell did you win this competition?"
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I ended up contacting a company, Hospitality Group Training. They put me through some trade schooling, and I got my start in cooking. I ended up starting in restaurants, and I suppose my course was set.
And did you finish school?
I finished year 11,
Right.
and then I finished year 12 at night school because I got the opportunity. I thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity. Back then, by the way, it's different to now. If you put an ad on Seek, for example, for an apprentice chef, you might get 2 applications, right?
Yeah.
Back then, there was 100 kids who wanted that job.
Right.
Because to understand, this is during the recession, 1992.
Yep.
You're not going to get a chef job. Very, very tough. So I thought, I'm going to take this opportunity and I'll still finish school, but this is an opportunity, and I took it.
Okay. And where did your cooking lead you? Because I haven't heard it from you, but I've heard
so I did. Look, it was
It
was a great opportunity to learn. So I started with cheerleaders in Camberwell, and then went to Marquette's Latin, and then went and worked for Laurent Pommet at Wildflower, and then went and worked with Adelphi and Chatillering, and worked overseas with Atelier as Aubuchon, and did some stage at Gordon Ramsay's for a small while, just to learn there while I was doing some cricket in England, and did some other stage over in America, and Hamilton Island as well. Just travelled and just got to experience food. But the big thing for me was just when I got the opportunity to work at Chatillering and be part of that team that with Gary Cooper and all those guys to be part of that 3 chef hat restaurant, and then learning about the Yarra Valley and learning about those suppliers, that was really the course that really took me to being, you know what, I can be something else rather than just a chef. So it was an interesting journey.
What was it like working under Gordon Ramsay?
I was only a short time with Gordon.
Okay.
So just literally just doing some stage. A stage in cooking is you can't work there really legally, but you can do volunteer work under law. So you can go there and work and learn and do those things. Over in Paris with Joe Rubichon and Atelier, that was a paid sort of internship there. Mm-hmm. So foreign people can go there and work. You think about it, you've got 20 chefs and you've got 40 patrons. It's an incredible food. It's a 3 Michelin star restaurant. Yes. So to be able to have that experience was awesome. But for me, the greatest chef I worked for was Laurent Pommet. He was at Wildflower. You're working next to a gun chef every day. He turned me into the chef that I was, and I've still got those skills today, which was absolutely awesome.
And what makes a really good chef? Like, I know it's probably a big question, but is there anything that you saw in him that you thought, that makes you an A+?
The difference, look, I've worked with a lot of talented chefs in the day.
Yeah.
And there's maybe 1% that I can honestly say has actually got it, right?
Yeah.
To be honest. It's like a painter or a cricketer or a footballer. I went out to lunch for our wedding anniversary on Sunday.
Yeah.
Went to a nice restaurant in Melbourne, I won't name it. It was lovely. We walked in and everyone says hello and it's lovely. So the service was bang on.
Yeah.
But that was... I think chefs will yell at me right now, but service is more important than food. You always remember the service. Yeah, food, that's what makes the experience. Food is just that vehicle.
It's almost like service allows the food to be good.
Absolutely. But this is a 2-hat restaurant.
Yeah.
And I would, the food that I got was something that I would cook on a lazy Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm not bagging it, and I understand they're doing it en masse and so on and so forth. But there are fundamental technical flaws in that food that was not at a 2-hat level in my day, right?
Yes.
That would have been the Age Good Food Guide used to be out of 20. I would have rated it 12. I wouldn't have even got a hat, right? So not that I'm being a hard taskmaster, but the training today is such where I've got a saying that everyone wants to be in the Gourmet Travel or Master Chef, but no one wants to learn how to cook, right?
Yes.
So to have that, I was fortunate enough to get true classical training and to be able to cook food at that level and drive consistency and get the best out of every ingredient. Not many chefs truly get to actually get to that level. And I'm not bragging or being arrogant, but I was able to cook at that level consistently. And if I was to go into any kitchen now, I would, without sounding arrogant, most of the cooking that I've had in Australia and overseas on holiday, I would run rings around those chefs even now, and I've been out of the game for some time. They just don't have that technical training.
So the better chefs, the real A+, if you like,
Yeah.
in terms of ability, do they you mentioned ingredients, and do they break down each ingredient individually and piece that together? Is that sort of is that the fundamental sort of thinking behind it, or not?
You know what it is? It comes down to, first of all, the ingredient, how is the best way truly to how to cook that ingredient? That's the first part.
Yeah.
Second part, you've got to look at, there's sweet, there's salty, there's caramelized flavors, there's roasted flavors, there's the crunch, there's textures, technique, everything combined. And you have to be able to look at what am I trying to get at an element and why does it work with that food.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm thinking at another level where I'm like, what I would do with a sommelier is go, what wine have you got? And I would match food to the wine, I would match the food to the wine, not the wine to the food. So I would literally be able to say, give me a taste of a Loire Valley Viognier as an example, right? Or a Yarra Valley Chardonnay. I'd taste it and I'd recognise all the flavours. In fact, I got to a point where you could give me a wine and I could smell it and I could tell you where it was, cool climate, old vintage, old world, new world.
Wow.
I got to that level with wine.
Yeah.
Which used to piss off my winemaking mates. They'd give me a bottle wrapped in foil. I'd say, where's this from? And I'd be able to tell them. They'd go, oh. It was pretty funny. But I would match the food to the wine. So you had, imagine that. You're getting a dish matched absolutely perfectly to a wine. That is food at the next level. Right. And only few people can achieve that.
Yeah, okay.
So but also too, many chefs are fundamentally lazy. And there's no such thing as perfect, but you can be consistently perfect.
Yep.
All right. And people just, if you're not wired that way, and think about it, you're gonna be perfect every day. That's pretty tough.
Yeah.
But the good chefs are.
Okay. So if you had to, do you ever think about going back? Because I can sense you're still passionate about food there.
I'll always be passionate about food. I mean, I have considered opening up food ventures. What's great actually is with Yolk Agency, I regularly still consult to the hospitality industry. There was a great business I was involved with from a green a place called Jamali in Point Cook. The business owners wanted to build something and we helped them to, from a green site, architecture, design, everything, the whole shebang. So to be able to help business people create the hospitality businesses, and all the businesses we've been involved with have been all highly successful. So it's been great to do that, but it's just I value my home balance as well, and working at nights is not for me.
We'll move on from the chef thing in just a second, but is it make going out for a meal hard?
When you go somewhere and someone's just cooking something similarly, I've got a saying. Don't cook with your hands, cook with your heart, right? Okay. And to me, I've done this whole 360 where I'm looking for a business where that chef is just doing things right. Yeah. And when you talk to people and you find out, like there's a guy who, I don't think he's there anymore, but it was Letterman Cake in South Melbourne where you go there and have a cake from there, or you go to a nice pastry shop and they're making just a good croissant. Like sometimes I'll go to 4 different places to get the things that I need, and getting those things is what I enjoy. It doesn't make it hard, but you're choosing where you go so you don't get disappointed.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah.
So from there, you at some point decided to move on in your career, if you like, and go into your first significant business. Yep. That'd be right. Yep. Supplying to the food industry. Yep. Tell me about that.
So that was an interesting journey. So I was working at Cheddar Yering, and which was fun. We achieved a lot out there as a team. It was a really good team. There was a Yering station next door, and every third Sunday of every month there was a farmers market. Yeah. And in that farmers market, there was people doing jams and relishes and meringues and basic home goods. But one day I'd finished my prep early on a Sunday, and it was 11 o'clock, and I'd heard about this farmers market, but because I worked every Sunday, never had a chance to go. So I thought, well, I'm going to make it a point. I'm going to get in early, and I'm going to go to this market because I heard so many great things about it. Yeah. Now I walked through there, and I'm looking at their products, and they all looked, like jars with homemade labels and things like this.
Typical market food.
Typical market food back then. But I'm looking at it, and I just to just divulge just for a second, I realised at Cheddar Yering, all the mentors that I had were actually bad business people. They worked too hard. So I started doing what was the early version of the entrepreneurship at Swinburne under the certificate there at Swinburne.
Right.
So I wanted to be good at business because I realised they're bad business people. So I know I'm a good chef. So if I learn the business skills, maybe I won't make their mistakes because I can see they're unhappy, they're divorced, blah, 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 blah.
Because they're fundamentally putting too much energy and effort into their business.
Exactly. Not enough energy into the things that actually matter.
Yeah.
So I looked at that and going, well, I've learned how to cook from you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I have to be like you.
Okay.
Right? Although Laurent Pomme aside, he's a gun, still happily married, absolute superstar of a guy. But all the others can't say the same thing.
Right.
I just can't. So I'm walking through this, I'm going through this training at university, and think about it, for me, I'm cooking and going to university at the same time. So it's not an easy life for me. I'm working really hard at this point.
Yep.
So I'm walking through this farmer's market and I'm looking at it, and the part of my head is going, well, that stuff looks like crap. And that's my three-hat chef mentality. That looks like shit. That doesn't look so great. Blah, blah, blah. But then I said, I'm looking at it and I'm tasting it. And I'm tasting the love. They're cooking with their hearts, not their hands. Then I look and pay attention to the fact that these people were so happy just selling their wares, doing what they're doing. I'm looking at them. And I just sit and I stood there. And the place was very busy. And everybody was selling their wares and talking about how, Culinary for Waters, Mandy back then would make her little jam in a little 5 kilo drums that's making small batches so you get the flavour, not big batches so it tastes like crap.
Yep.
So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can start making something here too. I thought, you know what? And I was like, I'm actually resigning from Shadow Earring. I'm going to actually do something. So
looking at the market, you decided
right then and there, you know what? I can do what in my head. I'm like, I can market this better.
Yep.
I can do a way better job than any of these guys.
Yep.
But I need the vehicle, and so I'm just going to resign. So I did.
And that was it on the spot.
I didn't.
Oh, you, of course, you gave your notice.
I gave my notice and all that stuff, but the same token, you had to do
the decision was made on the spot.
The decision was made.
So what did you book a table at the market next week?
How
did it go from
so
there?
what I did, I thought, what am I going to make? And I looked at the market, and to me, I looked at it very granularly. No one here's doing olive oil, so I'll do olive oil.
Okay.
So I got olives and crushed them and made olive oil and bottled it and put a label on it, and did my first market. And I took, I think it was like 20 bottles of olive oil, and I sold it in half an hour. I'm like, I've underestimated this big time. but I thought to myself, hang on, this is the 3.5 hour market. If I can sell XYZ bottles a month and then do different varieties of this olive oil and maybe do other things, I can earn my monthly salary in one day.
Okay.
Right? So I went back, I went to a graphic designer and said, I need you to do me some labels. Went to a printer, got some printers to do me up some labels, and I got a cloth and got it embroidered with the logo. And next market stall, it actually looked like a mini shop, and everyone went, whoa, who's this guy? And I'm like, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. Yeah. So I went and did it.
So the market, did you stay there for long? Because you've progressed pretty rapidly.
Yeah, I did the farmers market for at least 7 years from that point. Every market. So
okay.
I felt like I was, it was really, I actually, through working with the farmers market, with the Yarra Valley Food Group, I remember they got me to, because I had some success later on the piece, I went and spoke to the marketeers and so on. So they really recognised that I was a leader of my industry back then.
Yep.
But so I was making stuff out of the home. And I thought, well, I can't really make it out of the home if I'm going to take this seriously. I rented an old pizza shop, painted the windows, ripped out all the stuff, and I had everything was one big kitchen with a cool room. Started making pâtés and olive oils and cheese condiments and just getting my start. And that's how it started.
And putting it all back in through the market.
Correct, yes.
And did you do more markets? Did you where did the expansion start to happen?
Yeah, so I focused on the markets to figure out what people loved about the food. And then I thought, you know what? Everyone's going to want this stuff every day.
Yep.
So I thought, you know what? This is bloody good stuff. It's made by a chef 4 chefs. It just happens to be in a retail pack. So I started supplying delis and so forth. Then I'm looking at my product because by then my product looked actually very nice. I'm like, this should be in David Jones. So I flew to Sydney, presented the David Jones. They said, yep, absolutely. And then David Jones were really great to me back then. They probably had a bit more coin back then, but I started doing demonstrations and cooking classes and competitions to win me to cooking at home. And we had a great relationship with David Jones for many, many years. And that enabled me to get some real volume into the company so I could then look at the next stage of my expansion.
Which was?
Taking on the world. So I caution fears are brave, as they say, but I said, you know what, I'm going to sell this to the world, but I don't know what the world needs. So I thought, and is my brand even good enough for the world market? Because the brand was mustard in colour. I'm like, is that right? I didn't know. So before I jumped into it, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to book a round the world ticket. I'm going to go and visit grocery stores all over the world. America, England, France, you name it, I went.
Research, yeah.
And figured out that my brand was not going to be applicable to the world market. So I found a designer in New York to say, design me. I didn't want to be influenced by Australia because when you go to an Australian designer back then, you'd end up with some Aboriginal or kangaroo on the not interested, right? So I said, design me something that is going to be a world brand. There's a company called Skags in New York, and which end up being quite good friends. They're lovely people. But the point is, we designed the brand, refreshed the whole brand, and then I went for it. With the Australian Trade Commission, they had a stand at the Fancy Food Show in San Francisco. Entered my products in the show, had a little booth, ended up winning best product of the show.
Oh wow! Okay.
So off we went.
The brand that you designed, just to go back to that for 1 second, or the concept that you come up with, did you have to do that different for each country that you went into?
One brand, and obviously different barcodes for America's got EAN, Australia's got EAN, and America's got UPC. Different barcodes for different countries and different ingredient panels for different countries. Other than that, same brand. We just launched it country by country by country.
And was that something that you intentionally did that so you didn't have to? Because you see some products.
I wanted a global brand.
Okay.
Yeah, a recognisable global brand in food, and that's what I wanted to set out to create.
So you won the best produce?
Yeah, best product in show. Was able to secure distribution. I realised fairly early on that no one was really interested at that stage too much in, because we did everything but the cheese, so crackers and fruit paste and roasted nuts and things like that. So I said, I'm going to go out and do Meet the Maker tours. So I started doing these Meet the Maker tours. So I thought, I need to create a buying frequency for my product, because you got to look at it. You're making a product. You've got product on a boat heading to America. You've got product in a warehouse you need to clear, and you've got product in a retail product you need to clear. So if you take care of the retail end, the whole back end takes care of it.
To keep that wheel turning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would literally go to America or wherever it was, and I'd land there. I would go to grocery stores and do these in-store demos to try and get my product to get it well known. When we started creating these phenomenal relationships with, just like Darling David Jones, doing Meet the Maker tours, I thought retailers just want a brand to actually, imagine going to retail and saying, give me this space. If you give me that space, I can guarantee you a cycle of frequency of sales. And that 1 foot by 1 foot meter stand is going to give you XGP every year. Give me the spot.
So you sold that idea to them in the language that they understand.
Exactly right. And then I just stood there and I did demos to make sure that I actually kept my word. And I would be away from home 8 months a year doing that.
And what sort of size company are you talking about at the moment? Because you're still really on the ground in front of people.
Well, on the ground, it was at that stage probably doing about, I don't know, 2.5 million a year at that stage. It's only still very small at that stage, although we did rapidly expand from there. But it was really small. We took on America. We launched state by state with companies like Atalanta in New York, and it was funny, I'd go into a grocery store. It's funny when I speak to an American or even a Canadian or whatever, they'd say, "What town are you from?" "Oh, you got that grocery store." I can still tell them what grocery store is in that town. I visited thousands of supermarkets a year, literally thousands. So I knew America as a country probably better than Australia.
So your philosophy at that point was, take care of the store
Yeah.
and drag everything through
Correct.
that sort of
that was
channel, if you like.
Because there wasn't social media, there wasn't anything. It was do an in-store demo or pay to do a discount, and that didn't guarantee your sales. So I figured instead of paying the retailer to get a discount, I may as well just do my own demo and get it bought through at full price and deliver a high GP, which makes my product more appealing than my competitor.
And were you doing your own manufacturing at that
Yep,
point?
we were manufacturing Moorabbin.
Okay.
Yep. So we made everything, shipped everything, marketed everything, the whole shebang.
So you must have some skill, I'm assuming, in building teams, right? Because if you're on the road 8 months of the year, roughly, you're in the store, effectively pitching all day, every day.
Literally.
You must have some pretty incredible people behind you that allowed that to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had some great people. Look, the people, I say if you put out to the world what you want and you have a vision and you can share that vision with the right people, I look at it like this. Imagine we're all radio stations, okay? I'm a radio... Actually, let me compare this. I'm a radio station and you're a car with a radio, right? And I've got a frequency that I'm projecting and you've got a frequency that you're tuned into, right? Now, the goal of a director of a company is to find people that are on the same frequency, right?
Okay. Yeah,
and they need to share that vision. Now, if they're 100 and you're broadcasting at 99, they're not quite right. So for the people in executive teams or executive people in your business, they need to be on the same frequency. So I looked for people that were on that same frequency, and some found me. One girl who worked for me, she was just brilliant. She found me. I did a presentation at Austrade, and she was so taken about, in her words, by my passion for what I was doing. She knocked on my door one day and said, "I want to work for you," which was a great shock because I thought that she was actually quite talented what she did. And to her to watch Pro Trust, I was really quite taken aback. Where other people we found, and we just built this great relationship to achieve great things together as a team, and we did. So I could literally be somewhere in the world and they would take care of operations.
So, and allow you to grow.
Absolutely. Yep.
So you mentioned before you were doing $2.5 million worth of sales sort of at that point, and then you really started to expand.
Yeah.
So was there a turning point? Was it the uptake of all these in-store orders that pulled it through?
It was just constantly, it was just growing. We ended up selling Valley Produce Company, not to go into full numbers, but we sold to Australia, New Zealand, all throughout Asia, Dubai, Scandinavia, France, England, America, Canada, you name it. So we sold in all those countries.
Yes.
So just expanding by that process of Meet the Maker tour was how we got out there, and it was a nice journey to go on. Hard work. One of the things I will talk about, which is quite funny, when I was doing demos in LA, I realised that it was so, no offence to people in LA if you're listening, but it was really quite materialistic. And people, if you're on TV, you could really get your product out there. So I actually that time I was doing some stuff with the Australian Trade Commission, and I did a TV spot with them with some LA TV program, which is pretty cool to do. And I thought, our sales in LA spiked massively that day. Like there was so much stock sold, it was not even funny, right?
It's like one of those real whoa moments of business. Like what's happening.
Correct. And I thought, hang on, maybe I can do something in the media side of things here.
Okay.
So I ended up meeting a guy, Trent Blackett, and then Will Ward, and these guys managed the Hemsworth boys. Okay. Yeah. And with also getting some PR by back then a young Craig Hutchinson and Croc Media.
Oh yeah.
And I got them to help, and there's a young girl, Brooke, who worked for them, and we ended up doing a ridiculous amount of TV spots. You name it, the TV show, I was doing these cooking stuff online. Yeah. So I was able to leverage that, and so I would do, do a TV spot in Texas as an example, and then HEB sales, which is a massive retailer, they're basically as big as Walmart in Texas. Yeah. Their sales would just go bananas, right, because of this one TV spot. So I'll literally go to a location, do a TV spot, do a meet to make a tour, move to the next spot, and move to the next spot, and move to the next spot. So it was great to have this semi-TV career, and then to drive sales predominantly.
Yeah.
Although it was fun because you got to meet, we got to meet some great things. And, I remember doing dinner parties with, you've got, Zach Brown, who, he's a great country western singer, Grammy Award winner, absolutely ripping guy. Actually was an ex-chef too, Zach. Just a beautiful person, beautiful human. And then you've got, Chris Hemsworth filming Thor, coming in with and we're just cooking. Me and Zach have been cooking. He comes in after being at Marvel all day cooking, and we've got this dinner party. It's just kind of bizarre. Yeah. So I'm like this boy from Furniture Gully, although Chris is from Heath, back in the day from Heathmont. So it's kind of how we could have. Did we play football against each other? It's kind of weird. And anyone out there, he deserves his success. I tell you, that boy works very, very hard.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. And what he's been able to create, and this brand he's been able to create, I'm very proud of someone like that, because people have no idea what he's truly gone through. I think it's amazing that he's able to achieve that. And other people who go over there and achieve those things, because it is the hardest market to crack. Yeah. Once you crack it, you really crack it. Yeah. But there's lots of stories of people who are hugely, wildly successful here that don't even get a wriggle on over there. Yeah. So to get that opportunity to be on TV, sell my product, and create opportunities for the company was a great honour. And at a time of life, I really, it was a lot of fun, but it was hard work too.
Did you ever stop and reflect on that along that journey, and just think, from Furniture Gully, as you said, to mixing with those type of people and being in that environment, in the TV capital of the world, if you like? Yeah. Did you, through that, you probably look back and reflect now, but through that period, did you ever sort of take a moment to really enjoy it?
I look at every single day. I know there's people that say this, but they're full of crap, right? I look at every day as being an absolute gift, right? Yep. I don't take anything for granted, not a thing, because I come from a pretty humble beginning. So when you're sitting there at a Grammy party, as an example, and you're sitting there talking to a Rob Thomas, as an example, absolutely ripping bloke, and you're just talking as normal humans, as we are right now, right? This guy's internationally famous, right? You realise that that's just a job for these people. Yeah. So people put these people on pedestals, but that's for social media, whatever you want to do. Well, we put these people on pedestals, but they, at the end of the day, are just like you and me, who want to be happy, who want to be loved, who want to have a good life, and so forth. So when you're in that moment, you're just being human, and that's the thing that I do even now. So I don't reflect on it, because I was still present.
Yes.
Makes sense?
Yep.
So I'm still present today. I look back and go, it's just a journey I was on, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it, and I have no ill thoughts or good thoughts. It's just I was in the moment.
So to the outside world, it's a great, you're highly successful, you're building this company, all that sort of stuff. I know you said you couldn't talk about the sale, which is fair enough, but you decided to leave the company or move on or do whatever. Yeah. So why at that point? Because it's interesting. I mean, to get out of something when you're not going so well kind of makes sense, right? Yeah. But when you're going incredibly well, to leave. Well,
it's a two-way street, because it was going well, but then you look at what was happening in 2008, the global financial crisis. I was in Scandinavia. I looked at the Dow that day, dropped 777 points. I'm like, these storms are coming. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? 50% of my market is the US. Right. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time to actually do a part exit here, because I'm kind of getting sick of traveling. So I actually actively look to exit that stage, to actually look at maybe what else am I capable of, because I can't do this forever. And I was thinking maybe I was going to go down the TV route, and I probably could have. I honestly, without sounding arrogant, I could have been up there like a Curtis Stone or whatever. And it was got to about 2010 after selling the company in 2009, 2010 2009 we sold it. In 2010 to meet my wife and realising, and I met her in a nightclub, and as soon as I met her, I'm like, well, I'm really in trouble here, really in trouble. So I was like, you know what, I don't think that American thing's for me. I just knew in a moment that was a girl that I wanted to create a different life. And at that stage, when I eventually fully did the full exit out of the company, I was totally unemployable at that point because...
In what sense?
Well, I didn't want to go back to cooking, and there was nothing, I couldn't do a day job like go cook eggs all day to breakfast. I couldn't do that. I had a restraint of trade, so I couldn't go back into the food game. So what am I to do? So I was talking to some of the big consultancies, the PwCs, the Deloittes, the KPMGs, and they wanted me for my skill set, but then you're billing out at 83% of your time, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but you're giving them a report and you're not giving them anything. So I thought maybe I could just start yet another company. So that's what I did.
And that led you into Yolk.
Correct.
At that point?
Yeah.
How did you, through that, you've grown this company. One of the things that interests me a lot about people who start from their garage, a farmer's market, and build to a company that is distributing around the world. How did you learn so fast? Because there's a totally different skill set between making apple crumble and washing cars to exiting a company distributing, as we said, around the world. So how did you keep up?
Bite off more than you can chew than chew like hell.
Yeah.
No, to be honest with you, it was all really deliberate.
Yep.
To me, I look at what do I need to do in order to... It's a simple scenario. It needs to be in a retailer's shelf.
Yep.
How do I get it there? Right? And then how do I force a buying frequency? And then how can I have access to data that tells me what I need to produce, what needs to be on the water, what needs to be in the warehouse. So if that is selling in 2,000 locations and in a box there's 12 units and it's selling at 6 per week, they're going to need XYZ boxes per month, and you work out the maths, right?
Okay.
So for me, it was like, right, I need a production manager that can manage things while I'm not there, and they can have a process that's predictable. So I did Six Sigma training to learn how to produce a product consistently without an error, basically. So I put that training into the team, and that's what they did. Okay. So the manufacturing was done, and we worked out we can produce XYZ product per day. And then I went, if I could produce XYZ product per day in the world market, I need to find enough avenues to sell that much per day. Yep. That's it.
So you let this fairly basic maths, I suppose, drive the outcomes that you needed. That's how you piece it together over time.
The data.
So it was just building on that in every aspect.
Yep, correct. And then if you put the people plan around that and create, that was almost a family type environment, and you take care of your people, you can achieve great things.
If you had to give one piece of advice on inspiring your team, can you put it in a couple of sentences, or is it a more complex question than that?
It's not a complex question. I think business owners have a lot of business owners that I meet, and it's not their fault because they're in the zone, right? But some people think it's a privilege to work for someone. No, it's a privilege to have good people work for you. There's 3 types of staff. There's a tier 1 staff. They're the people you actually want. If you want to recruit them, they're happily in a job right now, succeeding. So if they're going to leave that company to go and work for a company, you need to be a tier 1 business, right? So if you get that scenario right, you can attract tier 1 staff. Otherwise, if you don't get it right, you're just attracting tier 2 and tier 3, which is worse. So for me, the only bits of advice is ask your staff, how can you be better? Invest in your people. Train them properly. Lead them and don't ask something that you won't ask of yourself, but understand that get them if they start at 8:30 and finish at 5 as an example, don't get them to work a minute later. They've also got a life. So if you can help them to achieve their personal goals, that's a really nice thing to do in business. So just truly have a HR framework that there's an understanding between the employer and employee. The HR framework's critical. Having training practices to help them to achieve clear position descriptions with measurements of performance so they know that they are achieving, and reward and recognise. And if you do that, your business will grow. But how many businesses don't have that?
So to go back to sort of talk through the journey, if you like, you were unemployable, but then you went into business again.
Yep.
Was there a long gap between?
Look, I remember sitting there and thinking, well, I've got this restraint. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I started thinking, oh my God, I'm just not gonna. I remember, I reckon I put a range of applications on Seek as an example. I reckon I tailored 300-400 cover letters and had different resumes going just to get an interview, and could not get an interview with anyone because they were either and I'd follow up, and they were either nervous because they thought I was going to take their idea and run with it,
Oh, yeah.
right? And
Yep.
because so I was just unemployable because of that.
Yep.
The consultancies I didn't believe in, although they're great companies, these businesses, they're billion-dollar companies, so I can't bag their methodologies. But that didn't sit well with me. So to be able to then go into the consulting space and to be able to truly help people and see that you are helping them was great joy for me.
So you decided to do it.
Yep.
You started out by yourself again from
From nothing. Yep.
from nothing.
Yep.
And where did you go from there?
So I started working with every type of client, whether it was an accounting firm,
Yeah.
or whether it was a manufacturer, or whatever it was. The whole goal was, where are you? So what is your strategic, what is your operational, and what is your financial benchmarks? And knowing about the good things of Valley Produce, the bad things of Valley Produce, the things that I'd learned, the struggles that I'd gone through, the struggles I've seen other people go through, and so forth. And how to get to a certain level with the lowest cost of resistance is sometimes in business the best way. So helping people to establish benchmarks around strategy and operations and financials, and helping them to have a true roadmap and data each month to actually help them to track to where they want to get to, that was of huge satisfaction. In fact, that gave me more satisfaction than Valley Produce Company.
Oh, really? Because you can see the impact you're having in these businesses.
Yeah, so you basically go in there as a defunct CEO. So
Yeah,
you know, you're gun for hire, right? You go in there, you help their business, and you leave, but they are significantly better off. But it's not just the business. They're now swinging in the golf club on a Friday afternoon because they can. They're now seeing their kids for the first time in 5 years because they can. I had guys that were, almost about to lose the lot, and be able to help them turn around these companies. And these are large, substantial businesses. Like, some of them are as small as 500,000, some are as large as 50 million.
Yeah.
So to help them turn around these companies and set up executive boards and get the right governance and risk management and so forth in place. So for me, I went on this MIDI MBA, this working MBA, to go, well, how does a big business operate? And I'm going to put those practices into these companies and help them to have these frameworks in place so they can actually have a better business today, tomorrow, and going forward. So really teach them that, to help them first realise you are stuffing up, you're not doing a great job, just recognise it, right? And then take them through that journey of growth is a great thing.
So do people typically, or business owners typically call you when they realise that they're a little off course to maybe where the direction they intended to go from the start? Is that where they get in contact with you?
It's actually twofold. Sometimes you get them when they're really in the poo and they're really struggling and they've recognised it way too late. That's a consult that comes with a lot of pain, because you sometimes have to really restructure the company significantly to get them where they need to go to. Yeah. I make the decisions for them that they have lost their will to make, right?
Okay. Yeah.
They can't make those decisions because they're just so scared and so petrified. And because they're the CEO, everyone looks at them as the CEO or the general manager. They are They are seen as a visionary leader, but that visionary leader actually doesn't know what to do because they're scared.
Yep.
The second type of company will go, we're going okay, but we're not sure about our direction, right? And we'd like to, that consult consists of, you're doing okay, but your competitors are doing this. What do you want to do, and how are you going to adapt and change, and help them to actually have a business in 5 years from now? And they're really fun because they're quite, they go from reactive to proactive. So it's a reactive to a proactive consult. Yeah. And then you get probably about 20 to 30% of our consults now are more proactive. We are flying, Chris. We're doing a great job. We know we're awesome.
How do we turn up the dial a bit?
But how do we turn up the dial? Exactly right. How do we take our business to the next level? So you'll do a full strategy on, and there's stuff that they just didn't look at, and they're like, and it may be that we're going to do some M&A and do some acquisition or whatever it might be, and at the end of that consult, they are seriously flying at the end. But I will say this, right? It's something that I don't know if many consultants can actually say this, but I can dead set say this, that every person we touch is significantly better off, on every level of plane as themselves as a human. So they are happier humans, happier business owners, better dads, better husbands, better wives, so on and so forth. They are happy. We have a holistic approach. That's why it's called centered thinking. We have a holistic approach to consultancy to help them to go, and I say to anyone out there that actually goes, I look at it like this. You, me, have a little voice inside us. We can't bullshit. It's impossible. And when you figure out how to do that,
we try sometimes,
you please tell me, because I've got no idea, right?
Yeah.
But when you actually recognise that you, as a business owner, if you've got a voice saying to you, I ask yourself, are you truly happy? If you're not, find someone you can speak to about it, like a consultant, like Yolk agency or whatever. If you want to do better, or if you think you can do better, again, do the same thing. If you're traveling okay, get a health check.
Yes.
Figure out, because you might be flying now, in 12 months your business can turn. So you need to think about your business all the time. And by having a coach or a mentor or consultant, that with us, we don't just go on gut feeling. We show you exactly why we're making this decision for you. So we're giving you data, real data, that helps you to go, you know what, that decision is absolutely the right decision.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about the passion I was talking about with cooking. This is my passion, to make sure they don't make a bloody silly mistake.
Yeah.
They can actually take their business forward. So when you're looking at the three types of businesses and the consultation process they go through, they end up, it's done for fees that actually make sense. It's not expensive.
Yeah.
They get 25 to 50% return on their investment in us. It's the biggest no-brainer as a business owner ever. So I love helping these people. Like they any consult that we go through, they're like, it's always thinking, and they end up being friends. So a lot of consults that I do, I can call them as a personal person, as a friend, and isn't that what consulting should be about? Because they're like a doctor. They're dropping their pants, right?
Yeah.
You're showing you their business warts and all. You get to know them pretty well.
Yeah.
So you need to be personal and actually care.
So do you do all the consults yourself?
Absolutely. Yep.
You do?
I'm involved in every consult.
Okay.
Every consult. There's not a single client that I don't touch. Okay. Because I want every consultant, as every client, to know that I'm across it all.
Yep.
There's not a single thing that I'm not looking at.
Okay.
So they know that they are getting the utmost care. Think about it, right? If you're going to give your business to someone, it is like a child. It's actually a screaming child, because it needs your attention.
Yes.
Right? So you're giving this screaming child to someone. You're going to give it to someone who doesn't truly care? Just someone who's a bill runner, just wants to charge you XYZ per hour and just crunch you on numbers? You need to give it to someone who actually cares, but also has the commercial acumen and the strategic skills in helping you to grow your business. So you've got this part of being someone who truly cares, but someone who actually has the commercial acumen.
Yeah, and one very important point there that I want to make is that someone who's actually done it before for themselves.
Correct.
I think that's an
100%.
important part, because unless you have, I think can be very hard to understand what it's like.
100%.
And I talk to a lot of business owners, throughout the day and on recordings and all that sort of stuff, and that CEO spot can be a very lonely place to be at times, can't it? So it's interesting, the dynamics that sort of come out of that. But
if I could checked on that,
sure.
There's a really interesting point. Think about this for a second. You are, let's say I'm talking to a business owner right now. You are at the top of your tree, right? Although at the top of your tree, you don't have one employer now. Your staff are your employers, your clients are your employees, and so forth. But ask yourself for a second, who are you going to speak to, right?
Yeah.
So there's many CEOs, rename nameless, and managing directors that they use me as their sounding board.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, because if they go to other CEO mates, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, they're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right? And they go to an executive team member in their business, they're like, well, my CEO is weak, I want to exit them. So they can't. Who do they actually speak to? So we offered that service to them. So it's like a CEO psychologist in a way.
Yeah.
And we give them, and they kind of laugh. These people, they're very high level people, but they laugh at me because they're like, I'm taking advice from a bloody chef.
Yeah.
But my experience and my credibility running my own thing and doing what I've achieved, they go, and it's another perspective. And I look at it from a very simple perspective because their lives are so complex.
Yeah.
And so I break it down for them. So that I actually break down their decision making. So they are making significantly better decisions. So that's a nice thing to offer our clients.
So you're working on the framework that sits behind it as
Correct.
well as the decisions.
Correct.
As well. So the businesses that you do consult with and work with, what typically, or where do they typically go wrong? Is there one area that's kind of like 80% of businesses that we go into,
Yep.
we work on this first?
HR, number one.
Okay.
Yep, HR. So they don't have any contracts or policies in place. They don't have any performance indicators in place. So imagine it like this. So if I can get everyone's mind to have an A4 piece of paper, imagine an A4 piece of paper. So at the top third, if you cut it into 3 sections, you've got a vision.
Yep.
The middle part is your vision, and the bottom part are your values, right? So your vision is your aspirational objectives. Your mission is what you're doing every day to achieve that, and your core set of values. And let's just face it, if you're over 30, you're pretty much wired to be the same way. So your values in your business kind of need to reflect kind of who you are,
Yes.
right? And who you should be, frankly.
Yep.
And then underpinning that, you've got your strategic operation financial goals. Now, underpinning that, if you've got KPIs with measurements of performance that are pegged to those operational, strategic, and financial goals, you've now got a HR framework in which to performance manage your people. Most businesses don't have that, so employees don't know if they're doing a good job or bad. So you get underperforming employees, which, think about it, most businesses that we work with, they might have 10 staff. We might reduce them to 8, but get 40% more productivity. Yeah. Why is that the case? If they were to grow by 40%, they would have had to take on 3 to 4 more staff, and we've just saved them 300 grand in revenue. Yeah. Why? Because their staff are being managed by a consistent HR framework. Okay. That's the first big thing that businesses miss out on.
Okay.
Yep.
So your overall business model is an interesting one because you've got the agency,
yep.
you're consulting, one-on-one, or you're involved in every transaction, yep. and then you've got Happy HR, which yep. is a platform.
Yep. Software as a service.
So you've got both ends of the spectrum, right? Yep. You've got a platform and the one-on-one. So yep. that actually, I can see now how they fit together so well. So to most of your clients, are they clients of both?
Yep. Many clients, many clients have relationships with both companies, absolutely.
Okay.
It is that we're very separate. I mean, there's different T's and C's. So you have a relationship with Happy HR, and its mandate is to keep you legally compliant, your contracts, your policies, and so forth, for a fee that makes sense. That's what it does. Yolk Agency, as I said, does what it does. So when you're using Yolk, you get this level of service and this level of consultancy. When you're using Happy HR, you get that level of software relationship, but also the HR services that company provides you, which then prevents any issues with fair work and those types of things.
And have you built that platform yourself?
Yes, yeah, we've from the ground up.
Okay.
So I was an IT guy prior to Happy HR. In fact, I didn't like computers at all. But I recognised that there was a real need because business owners, think about it like this, from $50 a month, which is a nothing fee, because if you were to go and get an employment contract from a lawyer right now, $2 to $4 grand easily, right? And that doesn't mean it's good. Right, just because it's written by a lawyer
yeah. doesn't
mean it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys out there in podcast land really recognise that. Yep. Choose your lawyers well.
Yes.
But if you get a platform that can go, you know what, we're going to give you your entire HR framework from $50 a month, and then you can call for your HR support about award interpretation. You got a problem with little Johnny, blah blah blah. I wanted to create a business that can give a tradie or anybody yes. that can spend the smallest amount physically possible and get the maximum benefit. And that's unheard of in HR. It just doesn't exist. So I'm like, I'm going to create that. Now, a huge cost to develop a HR platform. Bloody nightmare, right? And I can go on, this is another separate podcast on how to create a software as a service company, maybe part 2, but the point is that's not an easy journey. And then to make sure that is actually legally compliant, that's another journey in itself. Then to actually launch it, market and do all that, and then do all that and then provide every single subscriber or client unbelievable HR support. Like you're going to get a qualified HR consultant who's an absolute gun, by the way. And we've got actually a couple of them that do an amazing job. So you never have to worry about HR again. Just think about that for a moment. Never worrying about it. So that's such a joy. I see that as a huge benefit to the Australian small business community because we can offer them something that they've never had before. And what would normally cost them 30, 40 grand to do for $50 a month, that is the biggest no-brainer in business history. So that's what I set out to achieve.
And that's incredibly cheap too, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous.
On an ongoing basis, which is one of these problems that a SaaS product can solve for business owners, right?
Correct.
Taking out that upfront
exactly right.
Cost and spreading it out over time and remaining compliant. So you actually get a better service as well.
Absolutely. It's a great vehicle to say, like you look at Xero, it's $50-$60 a month, integrates with Xero. You can use other softwares that it integrates with as well. So it means that you're able to just get on with doing your business. Yep. You don't have to worry about lawyers or solicitors or award interpretation or any issues with employees. It gets managed. It's just a great service.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I'm mindful of your time, so I'm not going to take your whole day.
That's all good.
I'm not sure I've got this question actually even framed right yet, but you get an incredible amount done, right? And you help other people also get an incredible amount done with less staff and increasing their turnover and all those sort of things. So on a personal level, whether you're in business or you're an employee or whatever, can you give me your underlying sort of philosophy on how that works? Because there's some people that can manage countries, being a president or prime minister or whatever, and they can handle a lot of big decisions on a day-to-day basis, and they seem to be able to keep going. There's the example I used recently in one of these interviews is that some people, when they run 7 minutes late for dinner, throws their whole week out.
Yeah.
So how do you get through more of this bigger stuff and become more productive in a sense, but also achieve more? Because I think in anyone's language, you are a high achiever just on your record and what you've done. So how do you do that? What's the thinking that sits behind it?
It comes back to time management and being aware of time. Okay. Right? Time is our most precious commodity. And I recognise that as a young kid when I was, doing, put it back to sports, I love sports. Yep. When I was doing sports, I'm not a tall guy, I'm 168 centimetres, so I'm not massive, right? Yep. But I was able to, go play with Dandenong Stingrays and, try and get drafted as an AFL player. I was too short for an AFL player, but I had the skill set to have a shot at it. Or when I played cricket, I was able to play at a high level and went and did some, play cricket at a high level, or whether it was boxing. It was about how do I maximise my day so I can do that. So I learned very early on to manage time. Yep. So my staff will tell you that I cannot believe how much Chris gets through on a daily basis. So I have a to-do list that's a mile long, and I've done it by 12 o'clock, and they're like, they just shake their heads, right? Yeah. The reason why I do that is I do three things. First of all, I have a very clear vision to what I'm trying to achieve on a daily basis, right? Okay, yep. So today, I want to achieve X. And then from that, I've got a rule. And let's put it back to everyone that everyone probably understands is the email inbox. I've got a saying where I deal with it, defer it, delegate it, or delete it.
Yep,
right?
Yep.
So I do that with pretty much everything in my life.
Okay.
So either I'm dealing with it right now. Make a decision. I call it, again, another saying of mine, swallow the frog. You got a dirty, nasty green frog, and you got a chocolate bar. What do you want to eat? Right, truly.
Chocolate bar, yeah.
So you want to eat the chocolate bar. But that day, you still got to eat the green frog. Yep. It's going to taste bad, so you got to eat it. So it's better to just make the decision. So develop frameworks around decision making.
Yeah.
So the worst case scenario, always go back for the worst case scenario is that X is going to happen, right? Can you handle X if that happens? Yes, I can. Great. X is probably not going to happen. So what's the course of action? Make the decision. Now, sometimes when I'm making a decision for someone and it's going to affect them and they're not going to like it, I put it to them plainly. I'm making this decision. This is why I'm making this decision. decision's been made. I'm not going back on it, and this is the reason why. It's clear to the person that it's been made with clear thought and clear process, and if they can't handle that, they can deal with it what they want, but that's going to end up being, that's my position. They know my position. So by creating processes in your thinking around decision making, then shortens time and anxiety around making those decisions so you can get through more. So write a to-do list, get through a to-do list, and maximize your time and each hour in your day. So if you're looking at what do I need to achieve this hour, achieve it. Don't just sit there and not achieve it. Actually, actively have a plan. So I get through 16 hours in 8 hours every day because of that process. So I work at a rapid rate. But the other thing that I do is I have what I call a process called journey mapping. So I've got a job I need to do, and that job has, say, 10 steps, right? And I might be working on 10 journey maps, and I know where I am at each step of each journey map, and I move those journey maps forward as I need to. So that everything I do, there is a clear, methodical process that I've already pre-thought about before I start that journey. So when I start doing it, I know exactly what the steps are, so I don't sway from it. So most people go, say you got an arrow, and they go side to side, right? And they kind of hit it and miss it and hit it. For me, I just go straight. So I get things done faster because I've already thought about the problems and the things well and truly before they are problems, so they don't become problems. And that's the reason why I get through so much in a day.
And remove the emotion of the moment.
100%.
Of the day,
There's no emotion.
Yeah.
You have to take the emotion out of you. Running a company, be emotionless. Make the decision. Swallow the frog.
Swallow the frog. Got it. When do you do your to-do list? The night before, morning of?
My to-do list is a rotating to-do list. So what happened today? My clients may have a need. Something may have happened today that I'm unaware of.
Yep.
Or they've got an opportunity. And the way I coach my clients and saying, what is truly an opportunity? So don't come to me with an idea that you think you might want to do. Come back to me with a structured process of what you thought about. And if you get to point 10, that is genuinely an opportunity. And yes, you should speak to me about that. Right? So I teach them to think. But point is that might happen right now. So and that's a priority. So I prioritize those things over certain things because that might be something that is an opportunity, and that the opportunities like there might be an acquisition of a company. You can't wait until let their competitors buy that company. You need to buy that company. So so it's a rotating to-do list.
Okay, so you still have things that will take you off your to-do list, but then there's sort of like a framework that sits behind that.
Correct.
As to how that happens.
Exactly
and then
right.
You're back on the
exactly
to-do
right.
list.
So nothing gets missed.
And is that something that's self-taught? Is it just defaulted out over time?
It's that whole thing of biting more you can chew. Really, it's
just the most efficient way.
Exactly right. And I'll say this, behind every good man there's a good wife, and my wife is the single most important thing that's ever happened to me. She is an absolute champion, and she helps me think differently as well. So I can talk to my wife about business.
Yep.
Or talk to them about the kids, and she is just the most incredible person to be able to. For me, I've got my mentor.
Yep.
Saying that about your wife is weird, but she is an incredible person. The way she manages her time, she is an absolute freak. She's impressive, I'll tell you.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. It's good to have that support, and you're not the first person that has said that,
absolutely.
By the way, either. So,
if you can't recognise, if you marry well, you're marrying well. You know what I mean? I married well.
Now, if you could, just a couple more questions, Chris, and we'll wrap this up. But if you could click your fingers and have it all done, where do you see it in 10 years?
I'd like to see... I'd still be running Yolk Agency, to be honest with you. I don't see an exit for Yolk Agency at all.
You enjoy that work?
It's just it's something that I do now, right? Yep. It's part of kind of what I do. Happy HR... that you don't know what's going to happen with Happy HR. It is a software as a service. We're in a marketplace that's growing significantly. We've had one iteration of a major iteration that got launched in 27th November last year, which is version 2. Yep. It's an incredible piece of software that is already being significantly developed. to keep growing for our clients. Like, for example, for tradespeople, we have like a contractor module where they can log in and they can induct all their subcontractors. They can keep their employees compliant, their subcontractors compliant. Amazing technology that wasn't available before. There's no system out there that actually does that.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice thing. So we're looking at what's the next step. I don't know where Happy HR is going to go, because who knows where technology is going.
Yes.
So for me, I'm not saying it's an exit. I'm saying, what does our future look like? So it's about us continually developing our product and our software and our support services to adapt to an ever-changing market. That is unpredictable. Yolk
Yes.
Agency is fairly predictable, but Happy HR is not. Because one thing I'll tell you is the roadmap is long. It will be a product that consistently evolves to be best in breed, which it is, absolutely, no question. So to keep it best in breed, we have to evolve it as best in breed. So I'll consult to my own company to make sure that it continues to be that. Okay. So who knows what the future is for that?
A question that I ask everybody: if you could have one law changed or implemented, what would it be?
I think knowing, look, I have read the Fair Work Act a million times, and I've read
Is that an exciting sort of read? Is it?
Look, it's not something that it's joyous for me, but I've looked at every award. Mm-hmm. I've looked at every possible. The amount of Fair Work decisions that I read is insane. So the amount of reading I do to be a gun HR professional. Yeah. And know about every case that's going on. I don't know every case, but I tell you, I know a lot, yeah. Right? So I read avidly about what's going on in HR land. The thing that is most concerning to me for Australian employers is this whole thing around, employment law and how complicated it is. It's very, very easy to misinterpret you can interpret someone's award. That's fairly simple. But you could be an accounting practice and have the clerk's award for an administrator, the NES for an accountant, or something else. You might be in a construction business, you might have the builder's award, you might have a clerk's award, you might have the miscellaneous award, all within one business. Yes. For different employees. And the only way to really truly understand that is if you've got position descriptions that have then been interpreted, not the other way around. So, and other HR professionals will disagree with that. But at the end of the day, you need to interpret each role correctly based on the duties and so on and so forth. Now, that could be a 5-question exercise or a 25-question exercise. And then you've got various levels of Monday to Friday, before 7, after 7, Saturday, before 12, Saturday after 12. This is becoming a nightmare. And I know there's rostering products out there and so forth that help manage this solution. But the amount of employers that don't intentionally do this as underpaying people or whatever, they don't intentionally do it. But they do it because their bookkeepers or whoever has interpreted it incorrectly, and they get whacked and brand damage and so forth. This is a real problem. Yes, we can help them with Happy HR. To be honest with you, we have a ridiculous amount of subscribers now, and we haven't had anyone go to Fair Work or have any problems. Which is we had 6,500 calls for help last year, not a single problem. So it's an amazing achievement as a company. Yes. But and that's ma and pa businesses to big businesses. Mm-hmm. But this is so complex. This is why we have to exist. But I'm thinking, in some ways, why do we have to exist? Yes. And Happy HR will be here, as our other competitors will be, for a long period of time, because Australian workplace law is not changing anytime soon, and it's only getting more and more complex. I think it needs a rewrite. I think there needs to be laws, and it's still going to be complicated, don't get me wrong, but it needs to be simplified. And I'd love to see it being simplified in some way. It is an incredibly onerous act, and there's amendments happening all the time, which is fine. But it's just, I'd really love to see the scales being tipped just even. It's really in the employee's favour right now, which is not great for business. And when you call Fair Work, you get it from the employee's perspective, not the employer's perspective. So I'd like to see the scales tip where employers have a better leg to stand on, and that would be a nice thing to see happen for Australian small business. And at the moment, it's not going to happen anytime soon. So I think there were upwards of 40,000 plus fill rate cases happening this year. It's just terrible. And think about it, the average payouts, 5 to 12 weeks. It's a big hole in gaping hole in someone's P&L because they didn't document something. Now, I understand they should have, and that's why you have a happy HR.
Yep.
But that's a huge fine for a small clerical mistake, especially that person has been like cancer for that business. It's a second pill to have to swallow.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of employers, a lot of actual people contact us after they've been in the Fair Work and they've gone, we've had a problem, and they call us and then they go, geez, I wish I'd had happy HR. This would never have happened. And we hear that every day, literally, right? And quite a few times a day, unfortunately, for people who are new subscribers and so forth. But and I feel bad for them, but it's because they go, but I read this and I didn't understand it. It's too complex, and so that's what I'm saying. Simplification would be awesome.
You read a lot,
Yep.
in addition to all that law that you read. Do you have any books that you recommend from a development or business point of view?
I don't have time to really read those sort of stuff.
Okay.
I used to read sort of, obviously as a kid, you read the Rich Dad, Poor Dads, all that
Yep.
sort of stuff. To be honest with you, I recommended that book to a young guy recently,
Okay.
and he read it once and he read it twice. He's like, that was a really good read. It's still, although it's a weird sort of book, it's sort of conversational in texture,
Yep.
it still resonates today.
Yep.
Other than that, is podcasts and things like that that are okay. But because I find myself getting something on the way home driving, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I just want to spend more time with family.
So if someone wants to find you, where's the best place to do that?
So you've got Yolk Agency, which is simply YOLK agency.com, and you've got happyhr.com.
And your profile can be found pretty easily on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you just search Chris Smith Happy HR or Chris Smith Yolk Agency or Christopher Smith, you'll find me as. Absolutely, you'll find me, no problem.
It'll pop up. Well, I'm going to keep... I might take you up in this round 2 for a SaaS product discussion in terms of another podcast.
That's an interesting journey in itself.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of experience with that now, so I'd be interested in your thoughts on it and insights for sure. But I want to thank you, Chris, for taking the time today, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, no worries. It's really great to chat to you today, Matt, and I hope everyone's got something out of this. One thing I will say is take some time to think about yourself, take some time to think about, are you happy? And take some time to think about planning better for your businesses, because it'll lead to amazing things that you weren't thought were possible. And I hope this has inspired some of your readers to think just a little bit differently, because the journey isn't easy, and people do start as a humble beginnings, but you can be successful, and success doesn't mean money, it means happiness. And if people realise that, they can take their business and themselves to that next level.
I agree. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.